Senior. He lies next to his wife, who was Tabitha Dowd. Phineas was born in New Marlborough, Massachusetts in 1798. So, in 1811, his whole family, his father, Phineas Senior, his mother, Lydia, and eight siblings or so, all packed up and moved here to Huron. They traveled through Albany, Utica, and then landed here in Huron. Phineas Jr. would have been about 12 to 13 years old at that time. It's fun to note that Tabitha Dowd, her family also came from Massachusetts, not New Marlborough, but still a nearby town in the same county. So let's see. So Phineas Senior is famous. Probably not even a whole year had passed, and so they arrived in 1811. In 1812, Phineas Senior will be known forever as the first white man to die in Huron. He died due to a tree falling on top of him. But the story continues. So there are no roads then. So 2 young men were sent through the woods, through the forest, to the nearest sawmill to pick up just a simple board coffin to bury Phineas Senior in. So as they're traveling back, they get turned around. The only guides to where to go would be these blaze marks on trees, possibly where they cut the bark off part of a large tree to mark, okay, this way to go here, this way to go here. But it was getting dusk, turned around, so they ended up spending a cold February night in the middle of the woods with this empty coffin. They made it safely home the next morning, though.
They slept in it as a bed, right?
That's what I was thinking.
So when Phineas Senior died, that left his wife Lydia with a brood of young children. So Lydia ended up having to go to work to support the family. Lydia is buried the end of this row. Phineas, so her children, while she was working, would be raised by members of a nearby family, the Jones family. And next. So then last, Phineas had a few brothers, Spencer Chapin and Timothy Chapin. Were both noted in the community. They were both were active in the church, eventually became elders of the Huron Presbyterian Church. Another tradition in the Chapin family is that Spencer Chapin donated the land that the Huron Presbyterian Church now sits on. A couple years ago, we found the deed. He sold it. But we still like the story, so we may keep the story. Okay, then one last thing. Spencer Chapin was not only very active in the church, he is also very active in the town in general. When Port Bay became its own town, 1826, and they had to elect their first members of the board, and Spencer Chapin became one of the first assessors for the town and one of the first commissioner of common schools.
Very good. Thank you, Kara. Thank you. As you're walking, they were married in 1778 and came west from Hartford, Connecticut in 1809. They bought land just east of Resort, about 2 miles east of Resort, and started a farm there. You'll notice on Elizabeth's stone, it says she's a consort of Roger Sheldon. That means that she died before he did. I had to look that up. I thought she's a consort. What on earth is going on here in Huron? Yeah, they were married, but she passed away before he did. So that's what they would put on the stone sometimes. They traveled here from Connecticut with 10, possibly 11 children, all together. And on the way here from Connecticut, the family stopped in Dutchess County, New York, at a Judge Johnson. And Mrs. Johnson liked the children so much that she gave them all pears. And those pears came to Huron with them. They got eaten up along the way, but the kids saved the seeds. And when they got here, they planted the seeds. And how many of you have heard of the Sheldon pear? A few. That's the origin of the Sheldon pear. How many of you may have eaten a Sheldon pear? Oh, there you go. All right. Do you guys know if there, Mr. Nixon or Joanne, do you know if there are any other pear trees around? Yeah. The last I knew, all the Sheldon pears had.
There used to be one up by Josephine Yoder, she said.
That's what I heard. Yeah. But
And Florence Chapin, I thought, said there was one in this area too.
okay. All right. That could be. Yeah. So Norman was the first son, and we're going to come back around so you'll see his monument. The first son, he's the one that actually propagated the pears and made them to become so popular and used in this area. Ralph Sheldon married Margaret Upson and Minerva Flint, and they're buried around in here. No, Ralph is over there too in that. Now here we have Florilla, wife of William Mudge.
William,
I know.
So I was drawing on Mudge Creek runs north and south, south to north, and it's down along Limesville Road. If you come down Limesville Road and you're going into Wolcott, come down in Rice's Mill, that's where Mudge Creek is. That's who the creek is named after, is Mudge. So I don't know if William is a son, perhaps.
I don't know.
I don't know. But that's the Sheldon family. And then, gotta come down a little further over this. Follow me.
Who?
Elihu. Am I? No. Elihu. Todd, help me out. Elihu.
What is it?
I like Elihu. Elihu Spencer. He married Jemima Upson, who was of the Upson clan that's been mentioned now a couple times. And Elihu was reputed to have started the first sawmill in Huron, which would have been in North Huron. Okay, and he also bought lot 71. That was 156 acres, and that would have been on the southwest corner of North Huron Road and Ridge Road, where North Huron and 5th come together, and Ridge Road. So he bought property in there, and then had his sawmill way up at the other end of the road. So,
Rosa, Elihu is on that one, and she's on this one.
this is in memory of Warren, son of Elihu.
Oh.
That's their son Warren.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
17 years.
And Elihu and Jemima died the same year, am I right?
Within a week.
Within a week of each other.
9 children.
In 1825 they died, and so 9 children. Wow. And so we're not sure if they may have had some sort of disease came through. Tom's been trying to research that.
They would be my 5 times great-grandparents, I guess.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, Lois. I don't want you guys to say this before Lois.
Warren.
You want to tell people what you're reading?
Well, you better tell him.
This is a stone for Susanna Upson, wife of William Clark.
Yeah, but there were 2 William Clarks.
Well, thank you. Okay, there were?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had
Okay.
a son, you know, they keep naming their
Okay.
progeny the same.
And it's hard to read this, so this must be, and then there's no other stones along here.
I have it on another paper. That could be the one that is the lawyer and the senator.
Oh, okay.
What's his first name?
William Clark.
William Clark.
Do you know where he lived when he was senator?
No.
Ask you to. I think I might know about this. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So this is not the Reverend Clark.
So it's William, though. Can I
So you were right and I was right.
We're both right. How do you like I like it when we can be right together. Okay, this way. Military war soldiers that I'm aware of, there may be more, in the Huron Cemetery. And the cemetery caretaker and I came across him the other day. This is Isaac Richardson, and he served in the Revolutionary War. He was born in Connecticut in 1752, and he moved from Springfield, Massachusetts to Cherry Valley. Those of you who have studied the Revolutionary War, there was a huge massacre at Cherry Valley. Whether he was involved in that or not, I don't know. The Indians came through and slaughtered many of the residents there. Some were taken prisoner and taken to Indian camps over Seneca Indian Way and into the Tuscaroras. So I want to research him a little bit more to find out about him. He had a family of 13 children.
Can you imagine?
And they all seem to come here together with him. His son is buried here somewhere, also another Isaac Richardson. That's about all I know about him, but I think it's a beautiful stone and all the plaques and everything. You can. How many of you use Find a Grave? Oh, if you haven't used Find a Grave, go play around on it, because all the stones in the cemeteries, at least most of the stones in the cemeteries, have a photograph, and like Ancestry, you can get the lineage of the family, and it breaks down. You get the spouse, you get the parents, you get the children, and in some cases there's a little bit of a biography about the person. So it's findagrave.com, very easy to get to. While we're here, I'm going to point to this stone by, yes, down here by Chris. Ezra Knapp. I'm not sure if that's Ezra's stone or not, in all honesty. Ezra came here in 1807 from New Marlborough, same place as the Chapins. There were like 3 waves of people coming in. There was the 1807 group, then there was the 1810 group, and then another group a few years later. So Ezra was one of the leaders of the first group to come in. He came with 3 horses and 2 wagons. With him came the families of Jarvis Mudge, Nathaniel Hale, John Hyde, and Adonijah Church. There are some church stones in here. In fact, if you look down beyond that kind of cypressy tree, there's a church stone, but that's Adonijah's second generation here. Most of the churches are buried in Wolcott. Mudge settled on the creek that took his name and built there one of the first sawmills in town after, this is what's there. Knapp,
The woman.
yeah, thank you. Knapp purchased a farm 3/4 of a mile east of the Helms homestead, which would have been just about up to Lake Bluff Road, maybe a little further. Egner Road, coming this way from Resort. Let's see. In 1808, Mr. Hale's wife died and was buried on Knapp's farm. This is apparently the first white death in Huron, was Mr. Hale's wife. And soon afterward, Hale moved into Wolcott. prior to this, now this is interesting, I didn't know this. Prior to this, several of Helm's slaves, remember I told you he brought about 70 slaves with him? Now there's differing stories about Helm. Some say that he took this, they didn't last here. Helm got out of here. It was too hard. He brought these slaves up who were picking cotton and asking them to cut down these great big virgin forest trees, and they couldn't do it. So he moved south to Bath because that was a little more stable and settled, and he took many of the slaves with him. So that's where Austin went, and that's the story that Austin has. But some stories say that Helm's brother Thomas kept some of the slaves here too, and they may be generations of the African Americans that live in this area today. So anyway, back to the story here. Prior to this, several slaves belonging to Helm had died in Huron, and in later years, their skulls and bones were found during an excavation. So, Knapp had 6 children, and he had 2 wives, and the kids are kind of all scattered around. David McDougall, the cemetery caretaker, had put some yellow flags out down there just past Reverend Clark's, and those are some of the Knapp descendants. So there are still Knapps in the area, but many of them moved to other places. Now, Phoebe Knapp, Captain Knapp's daughter, married Dr. Zenas Hyde. Yeah, we've got a Robert and Louis Stevenson story going here, only with a switch. So we're going to come up to Zenas's